Our last stop together, and it is a good one. A team that improved by leaps and bounds last year in the Michigan Wolverines. A team that improved largely due to a defense which just got dramatically better from where it had been the year before. Now the expectations are immense with this team, and they'll find out just how good they are from the get-go because they open with the defending national champs in Alabama.
And when you talk about a team that has improved, they've improved so much that they were preseason, or they are preseason top 10 team. When I was here in the spring, they didn't jump out to me like a top 10 team. They're certainly recruiting like a top 10 team. They're certainly coaching like a top 10 team. But top 10 teams usually have deep, talented experiences in the defensive line. I don't see that in this team yet. Top 10 teams have great morale. You know, the second year of programs are more difficult morale-wise than the first year. First year, the new coach comes in, he sells a new message, everybody buys in. The second year, there's players that even though they bought into the message, they're not part of the plan. So that's a morale issue that you have to deal with in year two that you didn't have to deal in year one. So top 10 teams have great morale. We'll see if Michigan has great morale this year. And then how about expectations, Rever, as you mentioned? There's tremendous expectations on the Michigan team this year. There was none a year ago. Top 10 teams play under expectation. Top 10 teams play under pressure. I'm not saying they're not a top 10 team in midseason or end of the season. I'm just saying right now, I think it's more of a team that could play into the top 10 than a team that starts in the top 10.
And I think you hit it right on when you talk about the expectations. I think the expectations are going to be great for this program because it's Michigan. People are saying that they are back, but I still believe this is a team that's still building, still trying to get the players that Brady Hoke wants on this team that could continue to really go out and dominate year in and year out. As you talked about having a strong offense and defensive line, that's where it all starts. I think they are definitely on the right track, no question about that, but I don't think that they're there yet.
They're back as far as doing things to become a year in
Yes.
and year out top 10 team. There's no question. But this is only year two. I think maybe a little patience. I know the Michigan fans don't want to hear that, but this is a little different team than a year ago.
Yeah, you think about where it was. I mean, 6 conference wins a year ago. Remember, that equals the total for 3 years under Rich Rodriguez. And so I think the natural assumption is, okay, well, then you build and it goes from there. And
Right.
you won 6. Now maybe you win 7 or even you win 8. And you look at the outlook for this team, the offense does return arguably the most dynamic playmaker in the conference in Denard Robinson. He owns 6 of the top 10 single-game rushing performances ever by a Big Ten quarterback. 1,000-yard rusher Fitz Toussaint is back as well, though his status for the openers up in the air. The defense went from 108th in the nation in scoring D in 2010 to 6th last year. The bulk of that crew returns, including leading tackler Kenny Devin. So a lot of reasons for optimism, Jerry. As you look at the top storylines, what do you think they are?
Top storyline is the health of Denard Robinson. This team clearly would be a much different team without Denard, as a lot of teams would be without their starting quarterback, but I think more so at Michigan than maybe a lot of other places. So I think the challenge goes to Al Borges, the offensive coordinator. How can he construct an offense, or maybe how can he construct 2 offenses? One that when they're playing matchup opponents, teams that have as good a personnel as they do, that they have to get Denard Robinson involved in the run game. Against teams that aren't matchups for Michigan. In other words, Michigan can move them around. They can give the ball to the tailback and win the game. The interesting one is the Alabama game. You would think against Alabama, Denard's going to have to be involved in the run game. But the stated goal at Michigan is to win the Big Ten championship and go to the Rose Bowl. You don't have to beat Alabama to do that. So how much do they put Denard in harm's way against Alabama?
Which is very important. But I go back to the defensive side of the football, and I think that's where they have to continue to grow. Obviously, the numbers show that they grew by leaps and bounds last year. But when you talk about some of the leadership that they lost in Mike Martin, talking about the nose guard that could really dominate the position, that next guy has to be able to step up and play. And I think if you're going to win a Big Ten title, you have to win it with defense. That's a key way to win a championship, Coach.
You know, there's not many practices that you watch where you constantly are watching a defensive lineman. A year ago, you couldn't help but watch Mike Martin. They're not quite there yet.